the story that I can the story that I can best illustrate this technique was when I first started getting involved in club promoting. So there's a point in game and flirting and attraction where you start to hit your stride consistently, right? You're like, I know what to say, I know what to do, I know what to do in this moment, I know where to face my body when she's doing this. And so I started to get better at my game, and I met this club promoter. And this club promoter asked me, he's like, you know what, like, we're gonna give you a shot here, and we're gonna have you promote this event with me, and we're gonna see like what you're really capable of. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And so I go with him, and it's at the skating rink. We're promoting the DJ there, and so restart that. So the story that I can best think of that will illustrate this technique was when I first started getting involved in club promoting. And there's a point in game and attraction and flirting where you start to hit your consistent stride, right? You're like, I know what to say when she says this, I know what to do when she does this, I know where to face my body when she does this to me. And so the story that the story that I can best the story that I can best think that would illustrate this technique was when I first started getting involved in club promoting, and it's so good. So there's a point in game and flirting and attraction where you start to hit your consecutive stride. You're like, I know what to say when she does this, I know what to do when she looks at you like this, I know where to face my body when she does something like this. And so I was asked to help this promoter out, promote this club, because I started getting consecutively good, and he started to notice this. So he asked me, he's like, you know what, like, we're gonna give you a shot, and we're gonna have you promote this event with me, and we're gonna see what you're really capable of. And so I go there with him, and we're promoting this DJ at this skating rink. And so the story that I can best think of that illustrates this technique is when I first started getting involved in club promoting. And there's a point in game and attraction and skills where you start to hit your consecutive stride, right? You start to be like, you know what, I know what to say when she says this, I know what to do when this happens, I know where to face my body if she does this. And so I started to get my consecutive stride going. I started to get better and better. And so I got to the point where this club promoter notices this, and he's like, you know what, like, I'm gonna give you a chance, and we're gonna have you promote this skating rink event with me. And I was like, okay, cool. And we're actually promoting this DJ at this skating rink event. And so we go there. There's this sparkling blonde there. She's a model, I found out later. She's in these tight blue jeans, this blue hoodie. All the guys there want to remember during the event, they were trying to skate next to her. They were trying to buy her pretzels, and she was actually one of the helpers of the DJ there. And so while we're there, of course, like, these guys are trying to buy her slushies, trying to buy her pretzels. And after this event's all over, there was a foam concert right afterward outside. And we're in the locker bay, me and my promoter. We're in this locker bay, and you know, like how in a skating rink there's always these orange locker bays, and you have the little key that you put on your wrist. And so we're in this locker bay, and suddenly it goes quiet. And I didn't realize, because somebody comes up next to me, and it's like when you're driving a car and you turn, you look next to them, and you realize who it is. And so I turn next to me, and it's this sparkling, gleaming blonde that all the guys want. And I realized that's why the locker bay went quiet, because she's right next to me. And I was like, holy shit, is this fate? But I was like, I don't know what to do right now. So I turned to my promoter. He's like, go for it, right? Like, he's like triggering he's like, this is the trigger for going for it, right? He's like, go for it. And I turned to her, and I was like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And luckily I didn't have to do anything, because I didn't realize that I actually made an advantage by mistake. And that's when every guy in there was trying to come up and talk to her, right? They're throwing themselves onto her. She starts to get this consecutive pattern in her head, like, oh my gosh, like, when a guy comes up and talks to me, he's flirting with me, he doesn't want me for anything else. And so when she has a guy like me who's standing there and not saying anything to her, not giving her any attention, what emotion does that create for her in her head? It creates curiosity. And is curiosity any different from attraction? No, they're basically the same exact thing. Because, you know, when she becomes curious about you, she begins to chase you. She begins to ask you all of the personal, deep questions. And so I'm standing there, And she's like, holy shit, like this guy's not paying attention to me, like what's going on? And so usually a girl, when she's curious, she's gonna start laughing louder. She wants the guy to notice. She wants the guy to notice her. And so she starts laughing loudly. She starts, talking with her friend loudly. And I'm still not giving her any attention because I heard from my promoter, he was like, if you want to be different from every other guy, then you can't do what every other guy is doing. And that was going up to her, talking to her, giving her attention. And so she ends up, so I'm at my locker bed like this. I'm at my locker like this. She drops something down and she picks it up on my feet. And on her way back up, she accidentally hits my ass, right? And I turned to her and I gave her this shocked look. I was like, how forward of you. I was like, this is how you flirt with somebody? Because in that moment, guys are given opportunities and they don't know how to capitalize on that. And so when she dropped up on my foot, came up and slapped my ass on accident, that's an opportunity. And so your responses that you give to somebody are always based on the interpretation in your head. And a lot of guys, they have the interpretation, I'm not high value, this girl wouldn't want a guy like me. They have no confidence, and that's where their response comes from. A lot of guys would have just been like, oh, it's okay, because she was apologizing. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch your ass. My mistake, right? And a lot of guys would be like, oh, it's okay. And that comes from the interpretation, I could never flirt with a girl like this. I don't want a girl like this. There's a million different interpretations I could have had. But the interpretation I had in my head was, she's doing this because she fucking wants me. And I know it. Because that's where my response came from. Whoa, how forward of you. This is how you flirt with somebody? But also, if you have free control of your interpretation of your response, doesn't she? And so she turns back and looks at me and she's like, you think? Looks me up and down, right? Like this was ridiculous. She's like, you think I'm flirting with you? Even though she was just the one that touched my ass. So now you get to see how this game is played, right? It's called the frame battle. Whose frame is better? Whose frame is stronger? And that's the person who wins this flirting battle. And so I look back at her, I'm still facing my locker here, and I look back at her, I'm just like, well, flirting usually starts with words and ends with touching, so seems like you're the one who's rushing me a little bit. And so it was this back and forth frame battle, right? I talk about it in my book here, Waking the Core of Man, when I first got into club promoting. And so we're doing this back and forth frame battle, right? And over time, she's fallen into my frame, and I asked her, one of the best questions you can ask a girl to get her to chase your validation is, you lean back a little bit and you're just like, tell me something interesting about you, right? It's like the boss in a job interview when he leans back in his seat, he's like, why should I give you this job, right? Why should I give you the position? So it's a very, very powerful frame to do to her. And so I was like, tell me something interesting about you. And of course, I was good. I wasn't that good, right? My fucking sweat was sweating. I was so nervous in there. And so, I was good. I wasn't that good, but I told her that, and that was really the thing that sealed the deal, because that's where she started to qualify herself to me, and she told me she was a model for the Colgate toothpaste commercials. And right before I walked away, she grabs my hand. She's like, well, like, are you going to the phone contest? I hope to see you there. And I was like, well, how about you take me there and we go together? And so we walked to this phone concert together. But this is where I learned that technique. My promoter actually told me that night, and so I was like, I need to test this out. I need to use it, because she brings me into VIP with this DJ, and we're on the stage in this phone concert. We're dancing together. She's grinding on me. This was like the best experience in my life. And so she turns around at one point, though, and she looks me in the eyes, and I knew in that moment that she wanted me to kiss her. And I was like, and I wanted to, but like, that weight came onto me again. Like, I'm gonna get rejected. I had this fear of rejection. And I was like, how do I do it? What do I do? And that's when I had the idea. I was like, I need to use this technique. And so something that's good about this technique is that it breaks those nerves in half, and it's a game. And so I grabbed her by her hand. I led her back into the skating rink. And so I sit her down, and this is the key to this technique. So step one, you have to make sure that you're touching her in some way. So I sat her next to me, and under this table, we're sitting on one of those like park bench tables, and her thigh is touching my thigh under the table, which during the heat of the moment, you don't really notice. It just goes back, it stays back in your subconscious that you're touching each other. And so the game, you tell her, this is step two, you tell her, or ask her, I guess, let's play a game. And she'll be like, what's the game? And that's when you turn back to her and you say, if I win this game, then you have to kiss me. And of course she said yes. So I said, okay, the game, this is what you tell her, right? You tell her that the game consists of 5 simple questions, and if she. So you tell her that the game consists of 5 simple questions, and if she gets any of the questions wrong, then she has to kiss you. And so that's what I told her, and she's like, okay, game on. But she doesn't realize that the game actually only consists of 4 questions, and you throw the 5th one in there to throw her off so you can get the kiss. And so questions 1 through 3 are absolutely irrelevant. You can ask her something like, tell me your favorite place to go eat, and she was like Chinese or something like that. Chinese, let's say Chinese. And so you can be like, okay, where's your, if you can go on anywhere on vacation right now, where would you go? And she'll be like, well, Mexico or Cancun or Jamaica, something cool like that, right? And you're like, okay, cool. And like you act like you're actually like thinking about these questions. So, and the third one you can ask her like, okay, like what's your favorite artist, favorite music out right now? Just 3 relevant questions that are not yes or no, that she can't really get wrong, that are opinionated. And so after that 3rd question, she was like, these aren't really like difficult questions. Like, are you sure you know what you're doing? I was like, you create some banter, right? You're like, hold your horses, babe. Like, we're getting to it. Like, calm down a little bit. Like, geez, like we're getting to it, right? Calm down. So on the 4th question is where you get the kiss. And so this is what you do. You raise your finger up and you bring it in close. You bring it close to her nose like this. So if I was the girl and you're doing it to her, you bring it in close like this, and I usually like bump it and I back it a hair away. And you're staring at her and you're just like, okay, question number 4. Am I touching you right now? And of course, your finger's not touching her. And she's like, no. But what she didn't realize is that our legs were touching the entire time under the table. And so I looked at her and I was like, besame. And you may not know what besame means, but when I took Spanish class, I learned only like 3 words from that class, and that was caliente, which means hot, besame, which means kiss me, and te amo, which means I loved you. Otherwise, I just cheated off my neighbor in that class. You know, we don't need to talk about that. It's just, you know, water under the bridge. But so I said besame, and she was like, what? And I pointed out to our legs under the table, and she was like, her jaw dropped, and that's how I got the kiss that night. It's a very, very smooth technique that you use. And so you don't want to rely on these techniques forever, but they're good for beginners who have that overwhelming fear that they're going to get rejected like I did, and it really helped me cut that fear in half and get that kiss successfully. It was a double whammy because it made her want you more, because you had this interesting, like she can tell that story forever, like he played this interesting game on me, right? If you need help in attraction or dating or your personal life, make sure to go to my website, awakeningalpha.com, where I schedule my one-on-one solo coaching sessions with yours truly. And so if you need help also, you can also jump into, if you need help in dating, attraction, or confidence, or going for the kiss with a girl, then make sure that you go to my website or read my book, Waking the Core of Man, where I talk about all of the techniques that I learned from some of the world's best club promoters on dating and attraction. But you can also, if you need my help very, very fast, you can go to my website and you can book a paid coaching session with me, and we'll help you get your issues resolved. I'm Sonic Kim, America's Face of Dating, and I'll see you next time.